from some great shows to Mystic Lake Amphitheater this year. The legendary Bob Dylan will be there July 6th. Motley Crue, August 21st. Santana and the Doobie Brothers, August 27th. There's so many shows. Get all the details on all the shows. You can go to our concert page, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
This rights-free music thing, I mean, the title is apt. It's Cayman Breeze. Could you see yourself on an island?
It's a little Mai Tai action.
A little turquoise water. You don't strike me as a Mai Tai guy.
No, I'm not.
You just picked an alcoholic beverage that you've heard of before.
Tropical sounding drink.
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it. It does sound tropical, and maybe our next guest is in a tropical location. It's Paul Charchian at Paul Charchian via X. Needs no introduction. How you doing? Good morning to the feast, Mr. Charch.
You've got all these cool bands that are coming into town. When you live in St. George, the cool bands that we get come to Mesquite. That's the border casino town right across the way in Nevada. And you get a choice of, on pretty much any given night, a 38 Special cover band, or a Journey cover band, or a Bryan Adams cover band, or you get a Billy Squier cover band. That's a Queen cover band, Prince cover band. So that's what we get. So, take advantage of it, Minnesota.
Is that, so it's let me see here in Mesquite. Which casino is that in Mesquite?
Casablanca.
There are 4.
Yes. Casablanca.
Yes. Yeah, why do you know that? But yes, Casablanca is one of the 4.
I went on a golfing bachelor party trip there.
Yeah, because I'm looking at it right now, and I wanted to. You had me thinking about let me see, entertainment. Okay, cool. Drop down, entertainment and events. Let's check on the calendar here. Slaughter. Mm-hmm. Slaughter's going to be there August 20th.
Slaughter coming to town.
Slaughter. Right. Holy cats. Oh, this
knew Slaughter was still a band.
Greg Peterson band, not familiar. Joy Vital, okay. Terry Wayne Project. Yeah, this is tough. This is tough to read through.
It's not great.
No, it's not. Almost as tough as it was trying to read through that Packers depth chart and figure out how they're going to win the division, Brett.
I always love that one.
Throughout the next couple of segments, I do want to get to some Vikings talkers with you, but when we were texting yesterday, I kind of loved it because separately on my own, I was thinking of kind of doing a bright spots, weak spots bit for each of the teams on the Viking schedule. And you are a more mentally organized person than I am, so you kind of on your own kind of pared it down to, hey, let's take a peek at the North and let's figure out reasons why these teams will win the division. Let's think of some reasons why they won't win the division. And I just dig it in mid-June as we're all waiting for Vikings training camp and football games that count and fantasy season and all that. Let's start with the border rivals, Charch. In terms of the Green Bay Packers, giving $100 million to a wide receiver that can't stay healthy. Micah Parsons won't be healthy to start the season. Jordan Love. We know that. But to that end, maybe we'll start on the positive side of things. If you could, Charch, just kick us off with some things that Packers fans should be excited about, and then I'm going to yield the floor for the green and gold to our guy Brett.
Yeah, to Brett. Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about why the Packers will win the division. I think there's a handful of reasons where you can feel optimistic. First, Jordan Love made modest steps forward last year, including throwing just 6 interceptions on the season, which is crazy. And quietly, his playoff game was awesome. And if you remember, ultimately the Packers gave up all those points in the fourth quarter. It was their defense that lost the playoff game, not Jordan Love. If Jordan Love can build on that and add some explosiveness to his game, that would add multiple wins to the Packers' schedule right there. And that is within the realm of possibility. Jordan Love probably gets a bit better. If you can really start bringing in some bigger plays, I think that would be great. The other thing I like about the Packers, and so that to me suggests that they could win the division, strong secondary with young impact players like Xavier McKinney and Javon Bullard, who are great. I think that could work in their favor. Tucker Kraft emerged as one of the great tight ends last year, then blew out his ACL in early November. He is expected to be back for the start of the season. That would be a huge help because the Packers, they do have so many of the injuries from last year that they're trying to get past. I think Tucker Kraft will be ready. Micah Parsons probably won't, but those are some of the reasons I like for why the Packers can win the division. Brett, are there things that I'm missing?
There are. I do echo I think Jordan Love, a lot of the hate comes from the hate here is obvious just because he wears green and gold, but the hate nationally is, I just feel like he's not a very good fantasy quarterback, and then people translate that, well, he must just not be a good quarterback. The advanced analytics of Jordan Love is unbelievable. Second in EPA per drop back, third in QBR overall in the league, second in QBR on third down, third in DVOA. He is, completion percentage over expected. He's fifth in the entire, that's a top 10 quarterback metrics, but you don't see that because, he doesn't put up 25 points in fantasy every week. So, I'm a Love homer, will be until he tells me to. Otherwise, I like Matthew Golden being kind of unlocked. Now they severed ties with Dobbs, Wicks. So hopefully if Golden can handle the playbook and block a little bit better, he'll be a big part. But the negatives, I'll give negatives. Parsons being hurt the first 4 games stink. And you don't know even after the 5th game if he's going to be 100%. You don't know what type of Micah Parsons you're getting. So just because he's going to come back maybe against the Bears in week 5, Caleb Williams is hard to track down. You've got a rookie kicker in Trey Smack, which his name is fantastic for a kicker.
Yeah, smack the upright. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you just don't know what, it worked out well here in Minnesota with rookie kicker. You just don't know when you spin that wheel. I don't know about Gannon as the DC. That gives me troubles. And the cornerback room, they did draft a couple, but they're still young. They're unproven. Keyshawn Nixon isn't really a number 1. So there are definitely negatives, but and not to mention Josh Jacobs, what's going to happen with that? So there's a lot of question marks, but some good things as well.
Yeah, I had my list of reasons why the Packers won't win the division was pretty similar, Brett. When Micah Parsons went out, the Packers didn't win a game the rest of the way. So, that is, he was so pivotal for them. And then, for everything you did to get Parsons, it cost you a first-round pick. So, the team did not have a first-round pick this year. That could have been somebody who could have been an immediate starter to help this team that you did not get as part of the opportunity cost on Micah Parsons. His surgery for his ACL was December 29th. So, to your point, I think he probably starts the season on the PUP list. And then after that, who knows what it takes. The upheaval at wide receiver you alluded to. This is just a massive part of this. I think you and I agree that Jordan Love is better than people think, but the targets for him to throw to, Christian Watson simply has to stay healthy.
Yeah.
And Matthew Golden needs to reverse basically every historic trend of first round rookies who produced as badly as Matthew Golden did. There's a pool of about 20 guys in the Super Bowl era that were first rounders that only put up what Matthew Golden did. And basically none of them, not quite none, have turned it around. Golden needs to buck that trend, and they need a big season out of Jaden Reed, who also has to stay healthy. So, injury played a huge role for the Packers' demise last year, and that really does carry into this season.
Hey, Charch, have you ever done karaoke before? Do you like karaoke?
Not much of a singer, but, okay. 6 or 7 whiskeys later, everybody thinks they can sing.
Well, Saturday, July 18th, they have Rockstar Karaoke at Mesquite. And,
Nice.
and it says you can live out your rock and roll fantasies and sing your favorite hits with a real live rock band. So, just something to keep in your pocket there.
I appreciate that. What I might do, from St. George to Mesquite's about, 45 minutes, an hour. I might just join one of the senior citizen buses that goes from the assisted living place to Mesquite. Every Friday. Maybe that's my big plan for tonight.
Yeah, just don't fall into the Virgin River there. That's a treacherous path.
Can you?
It's funny. I know you say that jokingly. I live next door to the Virgin River. The Virgin River basically carved out the entire city of St. George a million years ago and runs all the way to Las Vegas.
Gosh, can you picture the scent of lotion, moisturizer, and ointment on that bus to the casino? On to the Chicago Bears. Here's kind of how. So the thing for me with the Bears, and they're the target in the NFC North, I believe, is a lot of the things that say, hey, they're going to do it again, are also some things that you could put into the category of this is why they won't. And what I mean by that, guys, Charch, you remember this season, but of their 11 wins, they went 11-6. I'm just going to rattle it off. They scored with 90 seconds left to beat the Raiders. Then they kicked a game-winning field goal as time expired to get ahead of the Commanders. In the Bengals game, Flacco drops 2 TDs on him with less than 2 minutes left, but then Caleb hits Loveland for a 58-yard TD in the clutch to win that game. They were down 10 with 10 minutes left in the Giants game. They got 2 TDs to win 24-20. Vikings game, we remember it. It was Devin Duvernay in that kick return. They get the game-winning field goal. They win 19-17. They scored 10 in the final 2 minutes to level the pack, and then that ridiculous throw to DJ Moore in overtime. 6 of their 11 wins were come behind in the fourth quarter, in several cases, final stages of the fourth quarter. Is that sustainable? Oh, yeah. By the way, in that playoff game, you mentioned it, Charch. Yeah, Jordan Love did play pretty well, and the Packers defense may have lost that game. They were down 11, the Bears were, with 6 minutes to go. It was Zacchaeus and DJ Moore with clutch scores to get that victory. They also had to tie the game against the Rams the next week in the final seconds, but LA beat the Bears and ended their season. That is unsustainable, and it's got some 2022 Vikings aura to it where hold on to your butts, man. And we were on the right side of that in 2022, sadly, until the Giants playoff game. But that is why this is why they'll win the division again. If you have confidence that Caleb is just that good in those spots and will continue to be. It's also why they won't win the division if you believe that there's ebb and flow and these things are cyclical and there's some regression there in terms of them always finding the right answer at the right times. Adding 5 new safeties to the roster this season, including drafting Dylan Thieneman, Kobe Bryant, that safety from the champion Seahawks. That's a focus for them. They also added former Brown and Steeler Devin Bush at linebacker. So the end game here is, I think, defensively, you got whatever you wanted last year from the Bears. And you want to run, they allowed 5 a carry. You want to throw on them, one of the highest yards per attempt allowed. It was hideous. But then they also generated 33 turnovers. Again, clutch victories, 6 of their 11 finding the W's in the final minutes. And then the 33 turnovers they generated on defense, which was the best in the NFL. So you get all the yards you want, but then they're going to take the ball away. We know it as Vikings fans, how volatile and how unreliable high-end takeaways can be. Murphy's 6 interceptions, get some new money, and we didn't see as much of it a year ago, just as one example. But for me, it's everything that we saw last year. We can say they were relatively healthy, and Caleb Williams took a step. Tons of respect for Ben Johnson, and that's why they should be front runners in this division with the moves they made defensively. The other end of it is they had a ton of takes last year that they can't rely on this year. They were super clutch in every single moment of every game. They needed it. They got it. They can't rely on that, and that is why they won't win the division. So that's where I'm at on the Bears. Where are you at on the Bears, Charch?
All right. Well, as a Viking fan, I like that you spun a narrative where the Bears, who had this long history of inventing losses and crippling come-from-behind losses, now, you're trying to spin that as a negative, that they've managed to overcome that and get all these big wins, improbable wins. Ben Johnson's just, I think he's obviously at this point, a fantastic coach, and it looks like that team's going to be very well coached for a long time. And I see only positives in the fact that the resiliency of this Bears team looks so different. And yes, mathematically, statistically, they're unlikely to have that many last minute wins, but that might just be a product that they might just be beating other teams by a lot instead of having these close games. The Bears learned how to win last year. And that, to me, that for a young team, I think that's incredibly important. They've drafted so well the last couple of years. Roma Dunze, Luther Burden, Colston Loveland. They found money in 7th round pick running back Kyle Monangai last year. They've got that terrific 1-2 punch with DeAndre Swift at running back. They upgraded their offensive line last year, and so did the Vikings, and everybody thought they'd both be really good. The Vikings wasn't.
Wrong.
The Bears are great.
They were, yeah.
They brought over Garrett Bradbury at center. They put a second-round pick into Logan Jones. So they're trying to improve the offensive line. Garrett Bradbury's not special, but he'll just not be an L for them.
Yep.
And then I think the biggest reason that the Bears defense is going to be a lot better and you're going to see more one-sided wins, their secondary last year just ravaged with injury. Kyler Gordon missed most of the year. Jalen Johnson missed most of the year. They come back healthy. They drafted Dylan Thieneman, who we wanted. Most of the fan base was ready and we're all jacked up for Thieneman. We thought he'd be an immediate starter here. He's going to be an immediate starter there. And they added a Super Bowl winner in their secondary, Kobe Bryant at safety. So that secondary gets way better. And I think the Bears are going to be really tough to beat. The one thing, if you want reasons they won't win the division, toughest schedule in the NFL.
Yep.
By last year's win percentage. That's Chicago now playing a first place schedule instead of that fourth place schedule. And the pass rush, which wasn't good last year, remains pretty anemic, at least on paper. They finished 24th in pass rush by Pro Football Focus, 24th in sacks, 22nd in pressure rate, and they really didn't add anybody notable to try to get out the quarterback. But that secondary is as good as it can be. Maybe the pass rush doesn't matter as much.
Yeah.
I think Chicago's the betting line third favorite behind Detroit and Green Bay. In my mind, they're the favorite to repeat.
I couldn't agree with you more that they should be the absolute favorite. And, the pass rush from them, I mean, they got this second or third year cat, Austin Booker, I think, that supplanted. They spent a bunch of money on that Deo Dengbo from the Colts, and he was just awful. And then they drafted somebody last year, Shamar Turner, and I can't remember if it was injuries or whatnot. Maybe he's just not good yet. The pass rush is an issue for them, isn't it? I was reading something a couple weeks ago, and just kind of in a similar vein, just peeking, just what's going on with the Bears and the mini camps and OTAs, et cetera. I was reading something talking how quickly it changes. You mentioned it. We wanted Thieneman badly on this team. It was kind of just, it is written. It's plug and play. Hitman's on his way out. Bring in the Oregon Duck. And now I was reading something. Here's reasons from a Vikings slanted point of view. I was reading. Here's reasons why the Bears will make a mistake if they start Dylan week one. Like how quickly. At one point we wanted him, then we don't draft him, and now it's like, well, he sucks. Here's the things. Here's why the Bears made a massive mistake. I think Thieneman's going to be really good, and that's worrisome for me as a Vikings fan. And I like your spin on it, Charch. Where I was taking it into they were clutch, everything on the line. There is some honesty to the fact that, this is decades in the making of solving the quarterback position. That's something we as Vikings fans are looking for. They did it looks like, with Caleb. And they did need to learn how to win after some tough times with Eberflus and even Nagy behind him. So that is scary. They should be the betting favorite, Charch. I think you're right.
I think Chicago is going to be really, really hard to get past. And just a lot of it is great, what it looks like very good drafting. And they've got a lot of young talent coming up through that team. And it's going to be a problem for years to come.
So let's do the Lions, and then we'll pause and we'll jump into the purple. But the Lions thing for me, it's kind of a health thing. I don't know if this was a short-term window, if it was lightning in a bottle. There's just too much talent on that team for them to miss the playoffs. And I look at it, I need to know about the offensive line, moving Penei Sewell to the left. I think that's interesting, combined then with almost what was a necessity move. I got to find a guy that's comfortable on the right side. That was Blake Miller, their first-round pick. The issue at center, when you look at what they were trying to do, they were trying to bring Ragnow out of retirement, and the Graham Glasgow thing just wasn't working. So they go out and get, maybe he was the number one center in the free agent market, Cade Mays from the Panthers, similar to what the Bears, they did that with Drew Dahlman a year ago. So reshaping that is cause for concern. But the health, I don't know if you saw this. It was Campbell or somebody, I forgot who was talking about Kirby Joseph. They make this thing sound like not only has he not been healthy throughout the offseason, they're worried about him just even being able to participate in practice and camp. So Kirby's in dire straits. Brian Branch is oft injured. And then just productivity out of that pass rush. They addressed it with Derek Moore in the second round of the draft. They added former Viking DJ Wanham into that. But it's Hutchinson and McNeil really alone until proven otherwise. I like Jack Campbell, but this is it's an interesting team. I think Drew Petzing's going to do a terrific job as OC there. But can Pacheco be as good or be what Montgomery was? And it's tough to remember. They had a top 5 offense statistically, Charch, but the rhythm and consistency wasn't there. So it's like you're dragging on this team's offense. Well, I'm dragging on Gibbs's pass protection. I'm dragging on right spot, right moment, consistency, rhythm, and flow of that offense that as good as they were on the numbers board, it didn't always look right in the right spots. And then defensively just being better, as I was talking about. I thought they were vulnerable all season. So for those are the things that I'm pointing at. Again, the way I'm kind of looking at it is if that goes the right way with the O-line, if it goes the right way with health, that's W's. That's them competing for the division. If it doesn't, and Petzing doesn't do a terrific job, and Goff continues to have some troubles with potentially this new look offense, then they're going to be potentially dwelling in the cellar of the NFC North again.
If Detroit stays healthy, they have the best roster in this division. And it's what has crippled them the last 2 years has clearly been injury. You mentioned Brian Branch, the whole secondary, like 2 straight years, the whole secondary's injured, and they're pulling guys off the street and starting him the next week. That part has been a wreck. But the funny thing is, when that secondary is healthy, it's loaded with good players. Brian Branch is great when he's on the field. Kirby Joseph is going to destroy an ACL on an opposing player every game. DJ Reed was excellent with the Jets, came over to the Lions, got hurt, and we didn't get really a good look at him, but we know he can be very good. This is the roster, this Lions roster, Nordo. There's no obvious holes at any positional unit. They're good everywhere, and they're not, in some cases, they're not just good. They've got high-end elite players as well. Aiden Hutchinson, Jack Campbell, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Penei Sewell, Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, all of those guys, like all pro level players. So not only do you have a roster without obvious holes when everybody's healthy, they've got the high enders that go and flex their muscles when that team needs wins or maybe in the playoffs. A lot of it does come down to Drew Petzing. Hopefully for them, a likely upgrade over John Morton, who they dismissed. And of course, you'll remember halfway through the season, Dan Campbell took over the play calling.
Yeah, it didn't work.
So that part of the Lions, I absolutely love. The reasons they won't win the division, I think you touched on a bunch of them. The offensive line has still got some pretty big question marks on it. They've the replacement at center, Taylor Decker, gone. Utility guy, Dan Skipper, 6'11", whatever he was, he's gone. He retired. Isaiah Pacheco's a huge drop off from David Montgomery.
Yeah.
This is not a 1-2 punch backfield anymore. Jahmyr Gibbs needs to stay healthy and be great for a lot of this season. And then, maybe this is just a team that just gets hurt because there's something internally they're not doing right to keep their players healthy. Maybe this is going to be an ongoing injury saga, but I think Detroit's sitting right now, betting line favorite to win the division. I think that's fair. If they stay healthy, that's the team I would bank on.
Yeah, I dig it, and I'm with you there. The roster is unfreaking believable, but something's not clicking, and that's beyond the health that I think we both know is apparent, and it's been a problem the last 2 years for the Kitties. Charch, we're going to pause, come back, and then we'll chat about the purple. A couple, of course, floating topics that I want your opinion on with the QB saga, new GM, and all of that, and we'll chop it up around the bend. Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
Party on. That's Paul Charchian. It's Nordo in for PA. Brett Blakemore producing. Viking-centric conversation when we return.
You're listening to Eric Nordquist in for Paul Allen on The Fan.
From the...
Welcome back. Nordo in for PA 9 to noon. A little vocal maintenance mid-June. And Paul Charchian joining us from his nuclear bunker in rural Utah. Charch, we just went through the other three in the NFC North. Some reasons why they could win the NFC North. Some reasons why they may not win the NFC North. And that brings us to the purple. And I'd just like to hear you kick us off in terms of analyzing this team. We know who they drafted. We know what's going on at the most important spot at quarterback between two, and well, then there's Carson. But what are your thoughts as it pertains to the purple within the construct of this talker?
Betting line fourth in the division for Minnesota.
Ouch.
And, given what happened last year, you can understand why there'd be some hesitancy for people to put their money on the Vikings. Really banking on Kyler Murray having a Darnold-like explosion in career production under Kevin O'Connell, which could happen. And that's, that's the number one reason the Vikings can win the division is Kyler Murray as a massive upgrade. Vikings were still, the whole division was over 500, over 500 last year. Vikings were in the mix. They were one game out of a playoff spot last year. And if you think Kyler Murray playing at, just say 20% better than he historically does because of the KOC bump, and you're like, okay, the Vikings were 9 wins with mostly dreadful quarterbacking. So, does Kyler Murray turn this team into 11 wins? And now you got a shot to go win the division. And then one of the reasons that I do like the top 3 wide receivers to me are all excellent. I love Juwan Jennings.
Yeah.
You and I haven't had a chance to talk about him. I don't think, Nordo, since the signing.
Right. Yeah, we haven't.
That move. I know PA does too, because he and I have been huge Jennings fans for a long time. I assume you are in favor as well of
yes.
the Juwan Jennings signing.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad they were able to find something, and I didn't initially. Once it started to drag out, and I'm starting to hear rumors, maybe somebody wants a little more money, maybe they got to, knock down their own market a bit. I like it not just from what he does in space, what we got to see during his time with the Niners. I like the catching ability. I like the grit and the attitude that he brings to this team, and that's not just an on the field leadership, competitive, as PA would say, competitive arrogance standpoint. I love him blocking against the run. I love every aspect of his versatility at the wide receiver position. So, best of luck to Jalen Naylor. He entered free agency and he signed a contract with the Raiders. Glad he got paid and appreciated his time here. But his nickname was Speedy. And then what? And I just didn't think there was much versatility. I didn't think there was maturity and savvy in the route running. The polish is really the key word for me when it comes to Jennings at the wide receiver spot. So I don't know what's going on after that with Ty Felton into year 2. Miles Price.
Well, I do.
Yeah, it's not a lot maybe is where it goes from there, but I love Jennings indeed.
Jennings, Addison, Jefferson have to stay healthy.
Yes.
And we'll talk more about that in just a minute. Another reason the Vikings will win the division is Brian Flores. I mean, the Flores defense gives your team a chance to turn a loss into a win every game. Demonstrated most markedly by that Detroit win in week 17 of last year. Total upset win. Vikings are 8-point underdogs. And Brian Flores just squeezed the life out of the Lions. 6 turnovers. Max Brosmer only throws for 51 yards, and the Vikings win easily. And the fact that the Vikings allowed 1 passing touchdown after week 10 is freaking insane.
Yeah.
In this day and age of this league. I mean, Brian Flores, he's good for wins by himself. And the defense, when healthy, is requisite to really unleash a lot of the things he wants to do. And, he's just a huge X factor. And then I'll throw this in too. Another reason the Vikings will win the division. Will Reichert is going to turn a win or two. He's going to earn a win or two, turn losses into wins by making, he's going to have a 5 field goal game. He's going to have a last second 54 yarder that he's going to bank in, and he's going to give you 1 or 2 wins in a typical season. And then you've got the third place schedule, which is pretty easy, kind of middle of the pack. For the Vikings. So to me, those are the reasons I like the Vikings to win. Before we get to the reasons they won't, you with me on all of those? You think any of those are maybe a little too optimistic?
No, I'm in lockstep with you overall. I did want to ask though, I feel like a lot of times and for rightly so, Flores has got this, and as long as the right people are healthy, I do. Like Caleb, the caveat to that is Caleb Banks has to show up. Your first round pick has to be healthy, and he has to splash. Big Citrus, Dominique Orange has to be productive in that spot. And then Dallas Turner, year 3, not trying to, rain on parades of some real productivity and some steps that he showed last year instead with an unhealthy, Jonathan Bernard kind of ending the season, kind of hurting a bit with the shoulder and such. But I just like those things have to happen as part of that. There's an immense trust that has been built and deserved and earned by Flores is what he can do in the scheme. But those things kind of have to go along with that. So yes. As far as that's concerned, we can nitpick. It's like, what are we going to get out of the run game? There's a lot of steam around this 6th-round rookie, Damon Claiborne, and maybe some versatility he offers that the elder statesman Aaron Jones does not. Certainly catching ability that Jordan Mason does not have. Things like that we can nitpick all day. But yes, once you figure out the QB spot and if this defense is going to work and the draft class is contributing, then along with the schedule where outside of it's like week 8 to 11, there's this little stretch in the middle, but the front end is palatable, and then you get 5 of the final 7 at home. The schedule plays in the Vikings' favor, too. I agree with you on those points.
The Vikings won't win the division. Uh-oh. I think here's the number one reason for sure to me is health. Yeah. The entire roster, incredibly thin after its starters for the Vikings. Maybe the thinnest roster in the NFL. There are almost no backups on this team that have proven to be an NFL caliber performer. Doesn't mean that somebody can't emerge, but it's exemplified by the wide receiver position. Jefferson, Addison, Jennings, love it. I'll go to war with those 3. They might be one of the best 3 deep wide receiver groups in the NFL. But after that, as you mentioned, Dylan Bell and Ty Felton and Miles Price, Dante Fleming. I mean, it feels like it's this way at almost every position. And it's a result of inadequate drafting for 4 years. There just isn't young talent waiting in the wings. There isn't depth on this team. And that to me is the biggest reason the Vikings won't win the division is we get key injuries and we just don't have requisite players to come in and to fill those spots. And it's a tough spot to be in. I like the starters. I don't like the backups, and I don't like at least how unproven they are. So for me, that's the single biggest reason why the Vikings do not end up winning the division if that ends up happening.
Yeah, health is an issue, and then productivity at the quarterback spot. But in terms, again, defensively, just relying on the kids, and I'm glad you nailed it. We were doing something earlier in the week, Charch, when and how. And we talked a bit about the Minnesota Timberwolves, just kind of watching the Knicks hoisting the trophy, chaos in Manhattan yesterday with the parade and all that. We want that on Hennepin Avenue. How do we do it? And we went through that. But then transitioning to the Vikings, the when's kind of weird. It's kind of an unknown. But the how, the A1 topic, man, is, and that's why Kwesi's not here anymore. Whether it's entirely fair or not, Kwesi's not here because his team has not been able to draft effectively to build depth. And it's been the massive sticking point. So, I want to see Jake Golday finding reps and finding utility in 2026. And Jay Ward, if Hitman doesn't return, then we're asking a lot of that safety group. And Jacoby Thomas, 3rd-round rookie Kane, apparently Flores loves him. Well, that needs to work. Those sorts of things as part of it. Now, 7-8 more minutes, if that's okay. I noticed when you talked about the Vikings and you mentioned Kyler Murray, that you kind of mentioned that as just kind of an assumed. Is that where you're at in relation to the QB spot? It's one way or another, it's an unintentionally rigged game. The guy with the 87 starts is going to be QB1, and let's just look forward to some training camp fodder and a week 1 border battle with Kyler.
To be clear, Nordo, there is a quarterback battle on this team, and it's between J.J. McCarthy and Carson Wentz.
Ooh.
It's not. Kyler Murray is going to be the starting quarterback unless something dramatic has changed with J.J. McCarthy. The version that we saw with him, it was so far off the mark of what you need for the NFL that Kyler Murray is going to coast into the job as the number 1 quarterback. And then, of course, we saw Carson Wentz for the most part last year as a Viking. Wentz outplayed J.J. McCarthy. The battle is between those 2 guys. And then the question is, what's happening on cutdown day? We've got all 3 guys. Murray's your starter, McCarthy and Wentz. And what if Wentz is clearly better than McCarthy in training camp? Now what are we doing? Are we going to hold 3 quarterbacks, which almost no team does for their 53-man roster? They're going to hold 3? Are they going to expose JJ to waivers? I mean, this thing, there is quarterback drama coming, and it's between the number 2 and the number 3 quarterback. It's not between. Kyler Murray is, based on what we've seen so far, is a dramatically better quarterback than JJ McCarthy, and I think he's going to coast to victory here if there even is any drama about who the number 1 quarterback is. And then it comes down to Wentz versus McCarthy and who this team's going to hold, and they got to make their cut down, which is going to be fascinating drama. We're going to get a lot of run out of that storyline in mid to late August.
Well, we're going to get a ton on the storyline, but you mentioned, logging it to cut down. They're not cutting JJ McCarthy, right? I mean, they paid, by the way, Carson, they paid him $3 million. So that kind of creates an interesting part of this conversation. They sign him to a $3 million deal. Now, I don't know the particulars. Maybe if they cut him before camp, they find their way out of that. But I don't know why he would have signed in mid-March to that deal if there weren't some even conversations like, we need you. I mean, that's a 3 QB territory conversation, right? And then it's, well, how's JJ handling it if he's not the starter, which then potentially leads, I mean, are we trying to trade a guy we just drafted 2 years ago?
Well, maybe. I mean, if this team feels pretty confident that JJ's not part of the long-term plan, you do what the 49ers did on Trey Lance. And you just go, you know what? We're just going to make a clean break and end the drama.
Yeah.
Organizationally, it's the best thing for this team. And that's a real possibility. If JJ doesn't show in training camp, and if he looks like the same guy that we saw last year, and Carson Wentz outplays him, and you're right that it would be very tough to just expose JJ to waivers, he's a trade candidate in late August. Wow. And you won't get much value. I think at that point you'd be hoping to get a 5th rounder. I mean, when it becomes clear that you're going to expose him to waivers, you have no leverage, right?
Yeah.
So at that point, you're not going to get much from McCarthy, but teams don't carry 3 quarterbacks. So what do you do? It's going to be amazing drama going forward. And I can't wait to see how this thing plays out. I mean, best case scenario, McCarthy's awesome.
Yeah.
Challenges Kyler Murray. Looks like a totally different guy from both a skill standpoint. The mechanics get ironed out. The maturity's way better. I mean, all the things come together, and maybe that happens. Let's hope so. But based on what we know today, that's going to be tricky. That's going to be tricky for JJ McCarthy, and this thing's going to have a ton of drama in August. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, and we have a new GM now, Nolan Teasley, who came from an organization that hasn't been afraid to pull the plug, even if it's potentially unpopular or risky, in even some attempts with the Seattle Seahawks, how they've handled the quarterback position over the last 5-6 years. They, of course, finding their way to Sam Darnold. What do you think of Mr. Teasley?
I love the hire. And I love the Trent Kirchner hire. I love all the people that are underneath him. This is going to be we don't know how it's going to play out, but just on paper, these are people that have built a really deep, successful Seahawks team and other places that shows that they know how to evaluate talent, how they know how to draft talent. I'm extremely, extremely bullish on the people they have in place right now that are going to make the key decisions for this team over the next several years from a player development and selection standpoint. It feels like they absolutely nailed the right group of people. And I'm really, really optimistic. I think we're going to have a ton of success going forward, and we're going to get, we'll start drafting well, and I think we'll start making really good decisions with the veterans, both on this team and who we retain and the ones that we go get outside of the organization. I mean, the Seahawks won their Super Bowl because they got a quarterback from outside of the organization, and they drafted extremely well for several years. And, I'm really excited that we can get something like that going here. And I love the hires. Love the hires. I'm really optimistic.
I'm very optimistic too. I just, back to the QB thing for a second. The best case scenario for the Vikings is JJ McCarthy opens up, right? I mean, the the idea, I mean, Kyler, it's probably the right answer, and he's favored for a reason, but he can go lights out this year. You can't let him leave the building like you let Sam Darnold leave the building. Now he's your $50 million a year man. And if he doesn't continue to perform at that level, that creates other future issues. It's just best case scenario. The drafting has to hit like you've hit on, and we've all kind of been obsessed over the last half decade. Best case scenario is that JJ wakes up and JJ grows up and JJ shows out at training camp. And I hope that's a real opportunity for him again versus what feels like an unintentionally rigged game.
Yeah. Yep. Agree with all of that. It's, you hope that one way or another, either Murray looks really good and he makes a KOC jump, or McCarthy, gets way better than what we saw last year and irons out all the things that we discussed.
Yeah.
I don't think Carson Wentz is part of the future, but you hope one way or another you come out of this season with a real plan at quarterback, and hopefully that plan is not taking a quarterback at the top of the draft, because that means something's gone horribly wrong.
Yes,
here. But
correct.
even if that is the case, I think we got the right people to execute that prospect in the draft if we have to.
Me too. I can't thank you enough for hanging out with me on a Friday morning. I do want to alert you to this, Charch. Saturday, July 11th at Casablanca, the Rhinestone Wranglers. Yes, saddle up for a night with the Rhinestone Wranglers, where classic country hits, crowd favorite sing-alongs, and energetic Western flair all come together for an unforgettable live music experience that will have you dancing from the first song to the last. Put that on your calendar, Saturday, July 11th. If you're not seeing just the beauty that is Utah and the majestic scenery and the beautiful land out there, check out the Rhinestone Wranglers at Casablanca.
I'll tell you what, I will meet you there.
Sounds good, my friend. Again, all right. Thanks as always, man. We'll catch up again soon.
Tons of fun. Yeah, let's talk again soon. Bye-bye.
That's Paul Charchian at Paul Charchian via X. One of our favorites, and looking forward to having him back on the Fan on a regular basis as football season approaches. What we're going to do, we're going to pause, catch up. We got news around the corner. U.S. Open, Twins 4 in a row. There's a game today for those of you that appreciate international flair, not Western flair, but international flair. With Team USA. Lots to talk about as we enter the final hour. Peter Carline joining us from across the pond around 11:30 as well. Brett Blakemore's here. I'm Nordo in for PA. Thanks for listening to The Fan. News du Nord is brought to you by The Casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com. You're feeling the felt all day, every day. Poker, blackjack, and table games. Having sips at Chips and tipping Derek Allen. And speaking of the Allens, how about this weekend, Father's Day? Go to CanterburyPark.com. Learn about some cool stuff happening Father's Day at Canterbury Park. Not just the racing. You got Family Day. You'll have animals for the kids, face painting, all that kind of cool stuff. I think they're giving away Lazy Boy recliners. And again, I've mentioned it a couple times. Find out, can I sit in a Lazy Boy recliner in the winner's circle? I think that'd be super cool. So I don't know who's going to coordinate that. But PA, I think they might be doing the father-son race call, PA and his son Derek, which is way awesome and something to be there for. But Father's Day, weekends at Canterbury Park are terrific. So check it out. Now, to the news side of things, here's Brett Blakemore. Where are we headed to first, sir?
Number 1.
If you thought it was anything else than World Cup, you're mistaken.
Oh, come on, man.
And it's not going to be...
Nobody cares about soccer.
It's not going to be hockey, Kevin, following this, because there's absolutely nothing going on with our wild squad. Still waiting for July 1, basically, for anything can happen. We'll catch up then.
So you haven't taken any days off. So did you miss their parade in Raleigh?
No.
For the Hurricanes?
No, I wasn't there.
Your favorite hockey team?
Yeah, I wasn't there. I couldn't make it.
All right.
So, yeah, had to work. So, no, we'll get back. Hopefully they sign Larkin. But World Cup time. All the host countries are in the headlines right now.
Do we actually do we think? I know Billy G's effort in it. Is there a calm? Is there a din of pessimism around the Wild's ability to take big swings this summer?
I feel like it's still optimism because the name keeps coming up. We're involved in, it's Larkin named 3 teams and Minnesota was one of them. So you got to be optimistic a little bit.
It just reminds me, and I'm kind of filibustering because, nobody cares about soccer. So I want to talk about, we're state of hockey here. So soccer is just hockey on grass, and it's super slow, and the field's too big. So with the Wild, though, if you remember back a year ago, Kaprizov, Billy G's going to get it done. And he said he's been on our show with PA. He's been somewhat regular guest with Barrero, too. And I love listening. I listen. It's not that I'm not always listening during 9 to noon, but always kind of locked into my guy and what's going on, what needs to be done. But when I get to hear Billy G with Barrero, and usually I'm either in the car or I'm in the garage or something, getting to listen to that, like really digging into those chats, they're terrific. But Billy G was so chill. Billy G was just, whatever, we're talking. It's fine.
When we get to it, we'll get to it.
Just everybody be patient. It was Billy G, it was our version of Aaron Rodgers. Relax. RELAX. But we couldn't because we're rubes. So hyperventilation and all of that, he finally gets it done. And then it was like, there was nothing to worry about. Oh, okay, Billy. Then he pulls off the Quinn Hughes thing in December. What's it going to look like, and all the number 1 picks out the door in the form of Rossi and Zeev and those guys. But it works, and it works to a high level. And then the conversation around the deadline is, well, if we don't do anything massive at the deadline, it could be great because something even bigger than a Trocheck could be looming around the corner this summer. And so we bolster the bottom 6, and we like somebody, Bobby Brink. Welcome to the club, Bobby Brink. Michael McCarron. And how about that? We just signed him to a 6-year deal. At one point, there was a Vox in the box where we're at Tria, and I'm getting clomped on. It's one of many embarrassing moments that I've had while on the radio. Some would say I embarrass myself every day. That's okay. I was getting clomped on by a certain program director, and so I have the headphones on, but I'm on the grind, we'll say. Wasn't listening. And Russo, down the line, I forget why he couldn't be at the rink with us in person, but he explains why it'll be so difficult to re-sign McCarron. And he explicitly even says, I'm sure somewhere you can find this on the podcast, he explicitly says it's definitely not going to be something like what they did last year for Nico Sturm and the 2x2. And PA points at me as I'm just sweating this conversation I'm having with Abbott. And he points at, I'm going to ask the next question. I just jump right back in. Well, I wonder if McCarron would be open to a 2x2 like they did with Nico Sturm. No! What an L. Oh, my goodness. How dumb am I?
I like the strategy, though. Just throw Abbott under the bus. It's Abbott's fault, not yours. Well, you're getting distracted.
It's totally my fault for trying to balance too many things. I could have just put the phone down like an adult and listened and do my job, but I did not, and I failed miserably in that moment, fell right on my face verbally. But they got the deal done just a little bit differently, and it was more term, and it was more money in the end, but they figured that out. So along the way, like Billy's just, anytime you put a roadblock in his way and you say he can't do something, he does it. And so Billy G's going to get all the leash and leeway, at least from me, if he's going big game hunting, I'm going to trust that he's going to find the right deal for the team. What if Jesper Wallstedt screwed all of that up in a good way? But what if he screwed it all up? Because that at one point, the conversation pre-deadline was, well, we have Jesper. We can give Jesper because Gus Bus. But then things evolved the way they did in the playoffs. And now there's surgery. Gus Bus, I don't believe, is even considered to be guaranteed healthy by the time the season begins. I think it's hip surgery. And that is a monkey wrench in spokes of the highest order. So all the trust and respect to Billy G, but because of that, with Jesper, Gus Bus's health, and some people just kind of looking around, I think our first pick in the draft is like 89th or something like that. So from a currency perspective, we're a little light in the pocket. I just wonder if there's a bit of a din of pessimism around him being able to ta-da, and go Copperfield on it and make the Statue of Liberty disappear and add Austin Matthews or something nuts like that. I just wonder if there's a din of pessimism there.
Well, so what you're saying is I should keep saying there's no way Bill Guerin can trade for Austin Matthews. There's no way. And just keep hammering that home until he gets so frustrated that he does it?
Yeah,
That's what you're telling me?
And then I get this in the text line, Kirill fleeced us.
That's just insanity. That's just nonsense.
But to that end, back to the World Cup. What were you going to ask me?
There are teams that would have paid Kaprizov just as much as that. So the Wild had to do that. They wanted
I think you had to, yes.
You absolutely had to. So that's just nonsense. So World Cup. So the three host nations, U.S., Canada, Mexico, two of them played yesterday. Canada just dominates Qatar. 2 red cards and a nasty leg break, if you saw that.
Yeah, Kone.
Just horrifying. You don't wish that on your worst enemy. Just terrible. But they win, so they get the result. And then Mexico play without the ball for what felt like the entire 90 minutes against South Korea. And Korea gifts them a goal because the keeper drops the ball. And that's how Mexico wins 1-0 and clinches their spot in the next stage. And then you've got the big one, which will be at in Hastings to watch, USA, Australia. Now, here's the update on Pulisic. So I haven't seen this anywhere. He's been dealing with a knock is what they call it in soccer, but basically a minor injury that's just kind of annoying, where he got kicked in the calf. Took him off precautionary because you're up 3 goals at halftime, so just take him off. So I see this report from Gianluca Damazio. That's my pronunciation I'm going with. I'm sticking to it. He's Sky Sports in Italy.
Okay.
Here's the problem. I haven't seen this anywhere else.
Yeah.
Now, Pulisic plays in Italy for Milan for his club team, so there could be some validity to this. But he says, good news for the USA. This was at 6:18 a.m. this morning. Good news for the USA. Pulisic has recovered from his calf discomfort and will be fully available. Now, I haven't seen that anywhere else.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that officially reported. So it looks good. You have Tyler Adams saying, everyone calm down. The U.S. team, I mean, they can beat Australia without him, but they need Pulisic on. He is their best player. I know Balogun scores the goals, but Pulisic is Captain America for a reason. You need him out there.
Yeah, you do. This guy's from Italy?
Yes.
So he's got some extra...
Gianluca Damazio.
He's got some extra time to do some insiding and some reporting, given that his country's team couldn't qualify for a World Cup to save their lives. I think they got beat by Bosnia in qualifying. I forget which team.
Pens. It was Bosnia.
It was Bosnia?
Mm-hmm. Who just got thrashed yesterday.
Yes, in fact, they did. It was cool. Yeah, I mean, Canada gets their first World Cup win in the tournament in their country's history, so good for them. Mexico, rivals as we are in this sport, them winning the group yesterday, it was there was one of those why I love this tournament moments because, Papa from Ghana yesterday, just kind of understanding how the country's captivated by it. The weight of the country, everything shuts down. And everybody stops what they're doing to watch it. And all the stories that can emanate, like Cape Verde, for instance, the, goalies in soccer can go on heaters and they matter like a goalie in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Vizinha, for Cape Verde proved that, stood on his head, literally and figuratively, against Spain. And last night, there was a cool moment like that. So you have this, you want to run it up, and I know Mexico wanted to have more goals. They clinched their group. But the moments that can be appreciated, maybe forgotten by many, but memorialized by a few, this Raul Rangel, who was the keeper last night for Mexico, 26-year-old from Jalisco. He was just playing in only his second competitive game for the national team last night. Not his 5th, not his 10th or 20th. His second competitive game for his national team. He is in net. And you mentioned the possession that Korea had. He was under siege throughout that game. A lot of offside penalties. Frankly, Korea just made a mess of the entire game. But
they were horrible.
This kid is on a roster with 40-year-old Guillermo Ochoa, who's been on World Cup rosters for Mexico since 2006. Ochoa's played a lot of games, and he's really freaking good. He's also old, and it's behind him. He's probably, with him and Jorge Campos, maybe the best goalkeeper that Mexico's ever put on the field. But then there's this kid, Raul Rangel, who grew up idolizing the guy that he beat out of a job, is playing in just his second national team game, gets a clean sheet in the first game against hideous South Africa. He could have actually slept his way through that one. But where the Mexico goal was based off of a keeper gaffe, he just made a meal of it, made a huge mistake. In the late minutes, do you remember the 2 saves on the goal line last night? Absolute chaos. He's forced to go against the grain in his body. The game's on the line. The group's on the line. He preserves the lead. You can go find the highlight if you want. Preserves the lead and the shutout on his butt on the goal line in the city of Guadalajara, where he played as a kid in the youth system and currently plays as a pro. That's Raul Rangel. That's more than you ever wanted to know about Mexican soccer and the national team. I get it. It's stories like that that make the memories of a tournament and make the memories for countries like Mexico that won the group are moving on. That's why it's important U.S. wins the group. Mexico wins the group. Their next several matches are in Mexico. They maintain that massive home crowd advantage. America are looking to do the same at 2 o'clock today. So those kind of stories, that was super cool. Raul Rangel on his butt, saving the tournament, saving the group for Team Mexico. That was really cool.
Let's go USA. There's news to Nord.
All right, appreciate it. That's brought to you by The Casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com. And again, Father's Day weekend is going to be a fun one at Canterbury, so check it out if so inclined. When we return, it looks like we got a special guest on the hotline, and we will continue some Team USA conversation. That's around the corner, final hour upon us. Peter Carline potentially in the mix as well. It's Nordo in for PA 9 to noon.
It's Eric Nordquist in for Paul Allen on The Fan.